All right. So first of all, I have to pee really bad, but I didn't go before I left the school. Not really for any reason, but I'm pretty good at holding it, so I think I'll be fine until I get home. Let's talk about Common Core. I try and try and try and try to stay out of this discussion as much as I possibly can. Because quite frankly, I don't know everything there is to know about Common Core. Why don't I know everything there is to know? Because I don't care to know it. Okay? But I teach it. I think. Illinois Board of Education requests strongly that the Common Core standards be met in the area of mathematics. It's not the only area, but that's what we're talking about specifically today. Common Core math. See, that's the biggest discrepancy right there that I can find, because when people refer to Common Core, they're only referring to math. And you have to realize that there are Common Core standards for all the subject areas. Math, reading, science, social studies, all those things have Common Core standards. Common Core is just a set of standards. That's all it is. It is not a style of teaching. It is not a methodology. It is simply a set of standards that are to be met by the teachers, actually by the students that are being taught by the teachers. And there have always been those standards, not in the grade levels that they're currently in. That's the biggest difference. And if you want to argue that, I will definitely have your back. Because students now, according to Common Core standards, are expected to know more at younger ages than they ever have before. That's all there is to it. The biggest argument, though, is against Common Core math. And the question I get asked by tons of people, do you teach Common Core math? Do you teach that new math? Or what is this confusing math? What is Common Core math? You get all these questions, and it's like, okay, Common Core math doesn't exist. Okay, there is no Common Core math. It is mathematics that is taught to the standards of the Common Core spectrum. That's what it is. So please understand that before you go and complain to your child's teacher or on your Facebook page or to your school board that Common Core math is a terrible thing. Because it's not. Okay? It is not a bad thing. It is the exact same math that has been math forever. The numbers have not changed. The operations have not changed. The way the numbers interact has not changed. So why, oh why, is it so terrible to have this new math? People have this new name attached to it because it's a catchy, alliterative name. They remember it. But they haven't taken the time to educate themselves on the fact that it is not a methodology. It is not the way math is taught. The teacher still chooses how to teach the math. Okay, we are not told you must teach math this way. No, we are told that you are to teach to these standards. Your students are expected to know this much by this time. That's what Common Core is. And the reason it's called Common Core is because theoretically, all the states of the country are supposed to be on the same page. That's what the whole catch is. Okay? It is not that Illinois is making a change. It is not that Texas is making a change. It's that the entire nation, when these standards were written, was trying to get on the same page and all have students understand the same concepts at the same time. So that if a student's family got relocated from California to Illinois, that student wouldn't be behind or ahead of their classmates, of their peers, and be lost for the rest of the school year. Or, even worse sometimes, not having their needs met because they're so far ahead. Yes, we want students to be high achievers. Yes, we want students to get ahead and feel successful and understand concepts. But when you have 2 or 3 students that are completely beyond their peers, You cannot teach to just those 2 or 3 students, and it's extremely hard to differentiate the education to where they're still feeling challenged and the majority of your class is not lost or in the dust. I would love to teach a class of all gifted students that wanted to learn and were eager to try and understand new concepts that were above their grade level. That would be fantastic. But that's not the reality. The reality is there are 25 different bodies in my classroom every single day, and I have to find a way to make 25 different brains understand how numbers work and how history was created and how to use newer, bigger, better words to describe the way they're feeling and thinking. That is my job on the daily. And Common Core standards have been set so that all teachers know where the students they're getting this year left off last year and where they're expected to be by the next academic year. That is all Common Core is. And because we have 25 different brains or 30 different brains or 10 different brains in a classroom, we have to teach them different ways to do things because not everybody thinks about numbers the same way. Not everybody reads a word the same way. Not everybody catches the meaning of something the same way. So that is what these new curriculums that teach to the Common Core standards are designed to do. So don't complain about Common Core. Complain about the curriculum your school has chosen. And understand, before you do that complaining, understand that your child is in a room with one adult and 24 other peers that are all trying to learn the same thing. Your kid does not think the same way somebody else's kid does. So, if your student is having trouble, one, tell the teacher. You've learned that from the time you were in school. If something is wrong, tell the teacher. Blasting it on Facebook or talking to your friend at the laundromat is not going to help solve that problem. Second, after you have told the teacher, they will very likely give you some strategies that you can use to help your student. Because that teacher does not have countless hours of time to spend with your one kid. We would absolutely love to. Please believe that. We would absolutely love to spend hours on end with each of our students and make sure they understand everything clearly, but we don't have that luxury. You know who does? You, as the parent, you have the luxury of having your child at home with their resources and their textbooks and their materials that you can then solidify what we've been trying to do for the past 8 hours a day for 5 days a week. Forgive me for being a little hot-headed, but I found out today, during my lunchtime, that there are parents complaining to a 5th grade teacher that they didn't like the way I taught their student math. And I had that kid in class for 185 days teaching them math. And I'm not finding out until the following academic year that they were displeased with the way I taught. Never once did they approach me about it. Never once was I told your kid was even having trouble. In fact, all of my students passed the 4th grade last year and went on to 5th grade with average or above average grades. And you know why? Because I pushed them. I helped them to be better. If I had just let them go and do it their way, half of my class would have failed the 4th grade, and I'd have them again. So just do something about it now. One, tell your child's teacher if they are having difficulty, if they don't understand it. But don't just say, my kid needs more help. Be specific. My child doesn't understand how to do the steps of 2-digit times 2-digit multiplication. My child is having difficulty figuring out where the tens, hundreds, and thousands place are in a number. Be specific. Tell your teacher what specifically your student is having trouble with. And if you don't know, then you haven't tried to help them. Your kid is at home far more than they are at school. And while we are the ones that are paid to teach them, it is you who ultimately is in charge of shaping them into the person that they're going to be for the rest of their life. We have this much time to work with them every year. For a year. And that's it. Then they go on to somebody else who has this much time to work with them for a year. And then they're on to somebody else who has this much time. You know who has them for all 3 of those years? You do. The parents do. So before you're going to complain that you don't understand what this new math is, realize it's not new math. There is no new math being done. It is the exact same numbers relating the exact same way in the exact same patterns. All that has changed is the explanations. Because we've realized as educators that not all students think the same. So quit complaining about Common Core math, because Common Core math is not a thing. Mathematics that teaches to the standards of Common Core, that is a thing. And if your kid isn't understanding it, then tell me. Tell the teacher. But if you don't know what specifically they're having trouble with, then you haven't done your job to try to help them either. You've got 1 or 2 or 3 kids. I have 25. Help me help them. Because I want to. I want your child to learn. I want your kid to be successful. I want your person to know how numbers work together. Not because the standard tells me to, but because it's fun. Because it's cool to see how you can build numbers, a theoretical concept, and then translate that into the physical world when it's time to go out and do work. So I will continue to push your child to try harder, and I will continue to teach new concepts and new methods. But know that all of it is their choice. They don't have to do the math the same way I showed them one time. I will show them 5 or 6 or 7 different ways to do a math problem, or to read a sentence, or to define a word, or to study history, or to encounter atoms and molecules and cells. I will do that. But if they're not getting it, I need to know. And it has to be more than they don't understand. You cannot solve a problem that is not identified. So know that Common Core math is not real. It is not any different than the math you learned in school. It is just they are expected to know more at a lower level. Why? I don't know. I wasn't put in charge of that. If I was, it would be drastically different. And most likely better. Because I know what students are capable of. I know what my students are capable of. Do you? Have you tried to push them? Rather than just, oh, they don't get it, so I'm going to complain about it. Please just educate yourselves, people. I realize this video is going on and on, but I am very, very passionate about the job that I do. I don't come in every day with the intention of confusing 25 brains. I come in with the goal of introducing a new concept that, while at the onset may be confusing, can be understood and figured out and pieced together. Some days I'm more successful than others. But know that I am constantly revising, repeating, reviewing, previewing, doing all these things to try to make your students better than what they were before. I cannot do it all. I wish that I could. Don't complain about Common Core. There is nothing wrong with Common Core. There is everything wrong with not accepting that something has changed and being okay with it. Yes, the standards have changed, but that's only because we know, as a human race, we know more now than we ever have before. There's a reason I can drive this car, because somebody changed something. There's a reason you flip the light switch in your house and it gets brighter, because somebody changed something. Because they thought harder and they wanted to know more. So now, because we know more, we expect our students to know more, faster and better. Because we as humans are faster and better than we were 100 years ago. So if we're growing to be faster and better, why can't our standards reflect that? Why can't we challenge these students to be faster and better and stronger and smarter than they ever have been? Doesn't everybody want that? At some level, we all want to be better at whatever we want to be better at than we used to be. And if you don't, then you're stagnant. Stop being stagnant. Stop complaining about something being hard, because it's the only way you get better. If you're constantly doing the things that are easy, you are never going to get better. I'm done now.